two core messages that I hope come out of the time I've got this morning. One is that rational process used throughout an organization as a key skill can significantly improve organizational performance. When we first got into this, we thought about what do managers do? They set priorities, they make decisions, they solve problems, and they execute plans. And so when you're thinking about your management development program, this is 80% of it. There are a few other bells and whistles we put on our management development program, but this is 80% of it. If we get good at this throughout the organization, we're going to have a very powerful and effective business. And the second core message is that the first message, that won't happen without top management involvement and a path beyond training. Training is not a solution for anything. Training is a first step in a process to embed something in an organization. But those of us who do train know that the next day people have forgotten a good 20% of what you presented. The next week they've forgotten 50%, and the next month they've forgotten it all. And that can be very frustrating for someone doing a trainer. If there has to be something going on within the organization beyond training that embeds the training and makes it meaningful. Okay, it's probably worth taking a minute just to tell you who is Interbay Foods. When we hear about IBM, that needs no explanation. Very few people who have ever heard of my company. We're a division of a company called George Weston Limited, which is a publicly traded company based in Toronto, Canada. The parent company is about $20 billion, so they're quite significant. And in the U.S., we have about $3 billion in sales. And those who live in the Northeast are probably going to recognize some of the brands that are represented in that $3 billion, particularly Entenmann's, Thomas's English Muffins are quite well known. My company has no brands, so we're an oddball in the business. It's a $320 million business, so we'd certainly like to be a billion-dollar company. But we have no brands. We sell our product through 4 business units, and we're in the cookie business. Private label retail, and it's very highly specialized. We put chocolate on cookies, and the odds are very high. If you buy a cookie with chocolate on it, we made it. We have about 80% of the U.S. market in private label, and we actually outsell the national brand, which is Kepner. Contract manufacturing, we make product for Nabisco, Kraft, Quaker Oats. For Nabisco, we make Stackwell Devil's Food, which is a fairly well-known product. Girl Scout cookies, which most people are aware of. We have about 40% of the Girl Scout cookie market.
Can we get the recipe?
I want to give you the recipe. Find the cookies from a girl.
Yeah, my daughter just bought 200 boxes.
Good for her. If you buy an ice cream sandwich or an ice cream cone, the odds are 95 out of 100 with an ice cream sandwich that we made the cookies. We have a very high market share, and cones, we have about 70% of the U.S. market in cones. So our game is big fish, small ponds. And if you are big fish in a small pond, you can make pretty good money at it. So that's who we are. Now, why did we adopt KT? We're pride ourselves on being a very process-focused company. And way back in 1987, we put in an integrated information system. We leveraged that integrated information system to get into ERP, and with outside auditing, we are Class A in ERP and have been for quite a long time. We also were the first ones in the baking industry to introduce statistical process controls throughout our manufacturing process, and we probably, at least within baking, probably have the most sophisticated systems in statistical process control on the line in the industry. So we're generating a lot of data, and our naive assumption is give them data, and they'll effectively use that data to solve problems and make decisions. Well, it turns out that's not true. And because of our grounding in statistics, eventually we realized that everything in life is a histogram. And if you take the problem-solving capabilities of your people or the decision-making capabilities of your people, they would lie on a histogram. And our goal was to narrow the range and to push the mean higher. And so we started looking around for some way to do that. And stumbled upon KT. There we go. So that was would have been around 1993, 1994 probably, when we first decided to implement KT. And how do we do it? Well, we did it as we do with all things related to this kind of training. We started with senior management going to public courses. And then deciding as a senior management team using DA, is this something we want to make core to the business? And decided that it was. So the senior management team then developed the implementation plan, and we decided we're going to do all the training internally. So we needed program leaders to do that, and the first four program leaders were me, the VP of Organizational Development, the VP of Sales, and the VP of Marketing. We have no training department at Interbay Foods because that makes training an add-on, and if any training we do is core, we don't send people to willy-nilly to outside training programs. We focus all our resources on the training we think matter, and if it matters, then it should matter to us, and the way we demonstrate that it matters is by doing it. So those were the first four program leaders, and we committed ourselves to rolling this out and training the entire, all the salaried employees of the organization in the first couple of years. To help facilitate the process, recognizing, okay, people are going to come back from training and they're going to need support. We took the people as we went through training who seemed to be most excited and most into what we were teaching them, and we took 25 middle managers, and then in addition we put them through 5-day course to be as facilitators to facilitate the KT process. And we did that fairly early on to make sure that support structure was there when people got back to work. Over the next 2 years, at that time we had 275 salaried employees, and we trained them all. You can imagine we were pretty busy. And in the second 2 years, we developed a 2-day course for key operators. These are hourly employees within our manufacturing operation, and got all the key operators. And somewhere in that process, we put 50 of our more technical people through KT project management. So it's pretty heavy commitment. And then about year 5, we put 4 middle managers through to become certified instructors, to make sure that the next generation was going to be there. And we picked those people based on their high potential within the organization, and our desire to make sure that they would, our anticipation is that they would be in senior roles at some point in their career, and this is a way to reward them and also to recognize that capability. So how did we institutionalize it? Some of the elements were on the previous slide, but again, recognizing that training is only the first step, and you need an infrastructure to support it. We put into the infrastructure requirements that the process be used. So all capital requests in the business above $50,000 require a DA. No DA, no money. All salaried hires require DA objectives before interviewing. We will not start the process until we have the DA objectives, and the interviewers, of course, will use the objectives in the interviewing process, and the final decision will be based on the DA process. All new product and equipment startups require PPAs. All major decisions require DAs. KT tools were built into our annual strategic planning process. We put use of tools into our performance measurement system. So we do annual 360s on every single employee. There are questions in the 360 that relate to does this individual use the KT process? How effective are they at using the KT process, etc. We needed to capture a database. Initially, the database was retained in Lotus Notes, and eventually, when the price got down to the right point, we bought eThink, and now we're using eThink. And again, to encourage people to go beyond average proficiency, because what you find is that, particularly when we're looking in the database, and I look at the database a lot to see what's going on out there, and particularly, I think with problem analysis, you see a wide range of quality in terms of the work that's being done. So encourage people to get to the next level. We instituted a mastery level certification process within the business. So with this defined checklist with people who sit in when someone says, I'm ready to be certified as a master, to review them actually doing one of the 4 tools and either certify them or to provide coaching to move them along. So a lot of steps that we built into the organization that literally force people coming out of training to use the process in what they do every day. So did we get anything out of all that? Well, we did achieve some benefits. In manufacturing, better capital decisions, reduced startup learning curve. In our Girl Scout business, we shut our production lines down every year for 6 months that are related to Girl Scouts. You know, you run 6 months and they go down 6 months. And when you shut a line down, manufacturing line down for 6 months, when you start it up again, it doesn't start up where it was when you shut it down. It's like starting all over again. And before the introduction of KT, it would be typical in a 6 month running season to be running 3 months before you got to where you were when you shut the equipment down the season before. We now do that in a week, and it's all due to PPA.
Question.
Yeah.
Did you have, prior to implementation, did you have performance metrics in place that were built around these same criteria, so you had baseline to measure from?
Yeah, we measure everything. A lot of intractable problems solved, and if we had a lot of time, I could tell you stories, but we probably all have stories about the problem that everybody's lived with for 20 years and finally you get a solution. Enhanced teamwork, because obviously we're using these tools in a team-centered environment, and when everybody comes together with the same language, the same methodology, all the stuff that has to go on at the beginning of forming a new team, a lot of that is already resolved. We know the approach we're going to use moving forward. Sales and marketing, we built this into our selling process. Again, when you're in front of a customer, what are you doing? Initially, you're doing a situation appraisal, trying to identify problems, because the customer's not going to switch unless he has a problem. When you identify a problem, you know, without using the language of KT, can you move them through the problem in a way that enhances the solution you have to offer? Decision analysis, could you help the selling process frame the objectives they're going to use to make the decision, and then finally, once you book the sale, you got a plan to execute. So all of our people have been through this training, and we reinforce this in the selling process. Product launches obviously goes without saying. PPA has made a significant difference. Working KT rational process with the customers we value. In our dairy ingredients business, we sell an industrial product to a customer that's running our product through machinery. In this case, it's our machinery, because we also designed and build all the filling equipment that's used to fill a cone or make an ice cream sandwich. But many a problem analysis has been done with our dairy customers to help resolve issues in the plants. And all of our field service people are quite proficient at this. And also with our Girl Scout customers, I've personally done a lot of DAs and situation appraisals with the Girl Scout customer base, and all of our salespeople have done the same. Leadership development. We're very much into action learning teams, and we use this as a device to bring together cross-functional teams of middle managers to work at significant strategic issues in the business. I probably shouldn't say this in front of all the KT people, but Pat knows, to us, an outside consultant is always a last resort. Because you're passing up a learning opportunity in our minds for our people. And if we're using Pat on a project now, it's not that we don't do it, but significant strategic issues, you want your people to solve those issues if you can. And it is an absolute requirement that the teams use rational process, and in presenting their findings, present it in a way that makes a rational process they use highly visible. And we actually provide additional financial rewards for these teams based on the outcomes, but also you're going to take money out of their pocket if they don't pursue those outcomes using rational processes. They're not able to demonstrate that they did so. One other, to kind of put this on for us, was a very big project. In 2000, we made 2 acquisitions very close together, one in March, one in May, to get into the cone business. We weren't in the cone business before that. And the first company we bought was in bankruptcy. The second company we bought was about 3 or 4 months from bankruptcy. They were in bad shape. So we brought the 2 companies together. The first thing we did was teach KT. So I appointed an individual to run the organization who was from Interbake Foods, is very familiar with the KT process, and another guy is VP of marketing, and he also was a senior certified instructor. And he and I did 4 sessions, 60 managers in the first 6 weeks. And we said, we're going to work together as a team. We got a lot of decisions to make. And this is the process we're going to use to make those decisions. But right away, we're making a cultural transfer that had a significant impact. In the first year, we taught, they had 160 salaried employees. In the first year, we taught all 160. And over the course of the next year, year and a half, all major decisions and plans about how to bring these 3 companies together and get the full benefit of all the synergies. You go through this analysis whenever you do an acquisition, you identify a zillion synergies, and most acquisitions fail because after you bought the damn thing, nobody really does the work to realize the synergies. And we were going to make damn sure we got our money's worth. And KT obviously was a key driver in making all that happen. You can't fly blind. We needed good information. So and we had an integrated information system within Interbake Foods. So in these 2 acquired companies, within 12 weeks, they were on our system with a common financials. And that's pretty fast. Anybody's ever done that? We sold off 2 non-core parts of the business that we acquired in the first 4 months. How do you develop a common face to the customer? Because we were going to integrate the sales team who were selling wafers with the sales team that was selling cones, and all different kinds of approaches, discounts, on and on. Potentially a real mess. So we had to develop a common face to the customer. We didn't just want to say it's going to be the Interbake face. We wanted to say that you guys are probably doing some things right, and we want to make sure that we mutually agree on what's the best way to approach the customer and resolve all pricing and policy issues. We did that in the first 12 months. We downsized headcount through selling off a couple of businesses, but also closing a couple of, they had 5 cone plants in the U.S. We went to 3, we're now down to 2. removing pockets of overhead. And after 2 years, we did an employee survey, and you'd think with all this change, there'd be a lot of negative attitudes out there, but in fact, the attitudes were at U.S. manufacturing company norms. And I think that's true because the companies we acquired were a part of the process and participated in the decisions, but also the decisions were made fast. They were made in a very highly visible manner with a lot of input, and it made a huge difference. And today, it's one of the most profitable parts of our business.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you run into problems with people trying to stack the process? Well, we've seen cases where there's a DA on whether to do something internal or to outsource it, and the internal team affected wants 6 of the 8 spots on the team. Have you seen anything like that?
That always goes on. I mean, I can't deny that there's a dynamic that goes on in these things. It's really up to the facilitator, I think, to be aware of those dynamics and to manage them. Did we always manage them as optimally as we could? I mean, I stand in here, I can't say that's the case, but I do think we have some fantastic facilitators. They've been doing this now for years and are pretty astute at managing the politics. I tell you, where we really see it is in the Girl Scout organization, where you've got very different constituencies in volunteers, parents, paid professional staff, and if you want to see some ugly politics. And so we've got a lot of experience in managing through that. And it really comes down to having great facilitators who are politically tuned into what's going on and managing the process.
Ray, what process did you use to downsize your headcount?
Well, in terms of the actual physical downsizing?
No, you put down there without losing anyone to stay.
In terms of the senior management team, a lot of that headcount reduction essentially was driven by plant closings, and I'm sure when we closed a couple of plants, they would have been more than happy to stay with us, but it was not. We couldn't have business health without it. But what I was really referring there to is within the sales team, the senior management team, the engineers, field engineers are priceless. You start losing that experience, you're screwed in our business. And we wanted to make sure that through all this anxiety, we didn't lose any core talent. We did. I will say, I don't have it on the slide, but in the last 2 years, we've completely restructured our manufacturing assets. We had a bakery that was 75 years old, a bakery that was 80 years old, producing about half of our total cookie production. Those have both been closed. We opened a new bakery in Northern Virginia. We doubled the size of a bakery in South Dakota and moved 120 million pounds of production, which was essentially half of our total cookie volume. We did that in 18 months, and it was pretty much invisible to the customer. Again, what was the underpinnings? It's every salaried employee in Interbake Foods applying rational process every step of the way. You could imagine the PPAs and making all that happen. So KT can be the flavor of the month, or I believe, certainly from my personal experience, it can transform a culture and lead to a very, very effective organization. But it takes a lot of hard work, and I think that's where people drop out. They don't want to do the work, which is true really of any execution failure. And it's commitment and involvement of the senior management team for coaching, training, modeling, and consistent reinforcement. In our larger $20 billion organization, Pat can attest to the frustration. I've been asked to train, and I have trained, but it's always been at a middle level, and it never sticks. And it never sticks because you got a team of engineers using decision analysis, and then they're reporting to a boss who doesn't get it, doesn't want to get it, whatever. And so this is embedded in Interbake Foods. It's not embedded anywhere else in our organization because that senior level commitment, we haven't been able to get that yet. And I say yet.
We're working
Not
on
give it up.
it.
We're working on it, yeah. And institutionalization has to be hardwired into all your existing processes. So beyond the training, you need to be thinking about how do we hardwire this? What are the elements in every other aspect of our business that's going to require that the use of rational process tools, or you're not going to move forward. And we reward those who use KT processes routinely. That's a part of being defined as having high potential within our organization, and we work pretty hard at not rewarding those who don't. That's my speech.